Okay, I'm still in Carlingford Lough, stranded, awaiting the repair of my car. So I thought I'd give a brief talk on ayahuasca. I know some people will pronounce it differently, but tough shit. If you don't like that pronunciation, you can go elsewhere. I have been complimented on my pronunciation in these videos, so maybe I'll abandon this kind of spiritual stuff and I'm gonna start punctuation podcast. Okay, anyway, ayahuasca. About a year ago was the first time I ever heard the word. I actually turned on a Tim Ferriss podcast and he interviewed two, I believe, Mexican doctors who run a kind of rehab centre, I think, in South America. And I'm a recovered addict, a drug addict, so I'm sober about 16 years, so I found it interesting. But I do remember that within minutes I knew I have to do this. And in my 16 years of recovery, you know, I meditate regularly. I've done all sorts. There's links below to 3 articles I wrote on ayahuasca, and they cover, the amount of spiritual work I've done, recovery work, alternative therapies and medicines and retreats and all the rest of it over the years. So I have been open to a lot of stuff, but I wasn't really open to ingesting anything that was, consciousness changing or drugs, for want of a better word. So I was unsure about that, but I was also stuck, and I've struggled a lot over recent years. So I suppose when you struggle enough and you get to the end of the line, you kind of think, fuck it, what's left? What else can I try? I've known for years, I've been aware of greatness, of potential for greatness. I've read about the mystery schools and the enlightened ones and sages and yogis and people, walking on water or healing people and traveling through dimensions. I'm open to all of it and I believe all of it. I know it happens, I know it's possible, I know it exists. In my core there's something, it just makes sense to me. It makes more sense to me than going to work every day and getting a mortgage or having 3 kids, and that's more kind of confusing to me. But anyway, I digress. So I heard the podcast, I was grabbed by it, I listened to it a few times, and there was nothing I could do. I live in Ireland. I thought I'll never get to Peru, or that's going to take a good few years. And about 6 months later, or less, 4 months maybe later, the opportunity arose. A friend mentioned it. I don't even know how the conversation came up. And I was made aware of a place closer to me that I could receive the medicine. And I went, and it was horrific and traumatic. Easily the most traumatic experience of my 39 years in this life. I encountered all sorts of demonic entities that I purged from myself. It was hellish, satanic. It was hellish. I remember when I left it that I felt, that night I experienced hell. I was in hell. I experienced it. Holy, sensory feelings, visuals. It was hellish. It was real, and it was, people can say, oh, ayahuasca, hallucinations, and these are not hallucinations, is my understanding. If you have taken LSD in your past, you know what a hallucination is. If you look at a lot of interviews or talks of people about ayahuasca, they won't use the word hallucination. It's a different experience. It's different senses, different energy, a different body, a different understanding. So anyway, why did I do it? Now, I knew what I was getting into. I did a lot of research in the days before, and I sought out the worst experiences because I knew in my gut that this could be traumatic, and I didn't want to go in expecting, some airy-fairy, enlightening, blissful I mean, if that happened, fantastic, but I wanted to be prepared for the bad stuff. And maybe I drew out the bad stuff. I was looking for it. I needed to be freed. I needed to purge. I needed to be lightened. And I knew prior to this that there were things attached to me, entities attached to me, entities feeding off me. I would now say that these things are attached to 99.9% of people on the planet, perhaps. They attach over multiple lifetimes in various forms, from greater demons, for want of a better word, to things that just parasites that live in our spiritual body or attached to the heart or the colon. Like we are electricity. Think of all the energy being pumped through the body on different levels, spiritually, physically, and so on. So naturally, in the physical world, things attach to us and will feed off us in parts of our body, and they can create disease or they can weaken us and they have to be removed. So if you believe in the other levels, such as our energetic levels, well then there are things in there that can attach to us too. You know, Charles Gillis has said that it's just like our immune system. If the immune system gets weak, we can catch a cold, we can allow in germs and they can eat away at us and drag us down. And it's the same with spiritual energy, or our kundalini energy, our spiritual body, that if we get depressed, if we get angry, if we get run down, if we're sad, if we dwell in it, we're opening the door, opening the window to these things to come in and feed off that negativity and that darkness. And they love it. They don't need us happy, joyous and free. They want us down. Look at the world today, look at the news, look at the wars, look at the politics, feeding off outrage, anger, fear, all the dark stuff. Feeding. It's a farm. We live on a farm. So why drink ayahuasca? I would now say receive. I believe it's a sacrament, it's a gift, it's a medicine, it's a spirit. So I would never consider taking this on my own, and I would never consider, buying the ingredients online and making it myself. I would not even consider it. I would do everything to try and turn someone away from that idea. This is something to be taken, to be received as a gift. If you have a calling, if you feel there's something in it for you, if you feel you have to go there. And I felt I had to go there. And I know now why, in the recent ceremonies and what I've been told and the guidance I've been given. But not everyone has to go there. And that's the point of this note is, over the years I've read a lot of books, I've tried a lot of different techniques, and you see people on Oprah and people everywhere who've like, I did this technique and I lost 100 pounds, or I did this technique and it changed my life and I wrote a book. And then we all read it, we go, wow, if I do that technique, my life will change. And we do the technique and it doesn't work. Or maybe you feel good for a little while and you get sick of it and nothing happens. So that person was at a point where they were ready, and perhaps whatever that technique was, that was the last straw, that was the key that woke them up or that changed their life. So it's not necessarily the technique, it's that they were ready. And my point is that when we get ourselves ready, when we've reached the end of the line and we're committed and we've given up, we've surrendered, it doesn't really matter what you do. Now, ayahuasca is deep work. Of all the work I've done on myself over the years, this is leagues deeper. This is the depths of the ocean. And you're going into the shadows, you're going into the darkness, to shine light on the darkness, to open yourself up. Now, not everyone is ready to do that or wants to do that, which is understandable. The day might come, but they might never have to do it. Some of us are called to do it, and we know it's the end of the road, and I knew it was the end of the road, that I have to go there. I have to know what the problem is, or what lays at the bottom of the ocean. I needed to know, and I knew it would be frightening. So, I suppose I'd be very skeptical of people. Now it's becoming trendy and spreading around the world, and the group I do it is a very secure group. The shaman has been around it for 20 years. There are clear boundaries. It's not a tourist group where people come and go, like flying to South America for a week and doing it and disappearing and going back to wherever. So I think if anyone is interested, you really need to know the potentials for how dark this could be, and also to consider it's not a magic bullet. There is no magic bullet. I mean, my life fell apart after ayahuasca number 1, and increasingly fell apart, and is to this day is still being broken down and dismantled. So I'm just trying to weather the storm, hang in there and get to the other side, that I know it's being rebuilt. But it's not easy, and integration is a big part of it, that you don't go, drink, have a few hours, come out a new man and your life is rosy. There's integration. You got to face reality. You got to face the things that you were shown, maybe the damage you've done to people or yourself, and correct that, make amends, change. And if you take those steps consistently, regularly, your life will change. So would I recommend people drink ayahuasca? I wouldn't, no. It's something you have to be called to do. You have to feel that it's what you want to do. I wouldn't, my experience was hellish and can continue to be quite traumatic and I'm terrified of it. I'm still terrified of it. But I know I have to I don't say I have to keep going back, but I know I go back once at a time, I see what happens, and I'll stop at some point. So would I recommend it to people? No, I wouldn't. I think it's something you yourself need to decide. And I would say this, regarding working with a healer or a light worker or whatever you want to call it. All of this comes back to your own inner compass and guidance of knowing and taking responsibility of what's right for me. What do I need to do? Do I need to do this? Am I being called to do this? Will this be beneficial? Am I able for it? Am I interested in it? Why am I doing it? So all that's up to you to decide. It's a recommendation is useless. If anything, I would recommend people don't do it. And I would steer people away from it, that there's other work out there, but you'll know if it's something on your path, and if it's something you can't shake. There's other means, I think, that can be beneficial in the meantime and get you over whatever hump you're struggling with. So that's just my thoughts on ayahuasca. I hope it was of use to people or interest. If you have any questions, or you're unsure, or if I didn't cover something, stick a question below. And if this was of interest to you, or you enjoyed it or liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Have a good one. Thanks for listening.